Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Scully,
Yes?
marry me.
I love you and I like you.
I love you and I like you.
I love that woman. I love her more than sharks love blood.
I love you.
You know.
Hello, I'm Tristan Riddell,
And I'm the girl.
and this is Nerd Nuptial. And if this is your first time listening, we are a married couple looking at life through a nerdy lens. How are things?
Things are good. The Oscars are coming
Oscars are coming. That's what
Yeah.
we're talking about today.
next weekend.
Yes. We are recording this on Sunday. You are listening to it on Monday, and the Oscars are a week away.
That's right.
And we figured that we'll do an Oscars episode next week, kind of like a review, a recap of what we thought of what
Thoughts,
won.
feelings.
Thoughts, feelings, emotions.
That's right.
Turmoils.
Yeah.
Things like that. So yeah, we'll talk about what won, what didn't win.
Right.
But this week we thought we'd do a little Oscar history with ourselves
Yeah.
and as individuals, as a couple, and also just pretty much in general, just like when we started paying attention, our biggest upsets, and also kind of what we think of the nominees this year for Best Picture.
Yeah.
That's probably what we're going to focus on most, or
Yeah.
kind of the Best Picture ones, because my goodness, like if we
Yeah.
pulled the thread of Best Song or like Best Makeup,
We don't want to do that. Let's just be
No.
honest.
it'd be tumbling down a rabbit hole.
Exactly.
So, kind of my first question for you before we talk about the nominees this year is, when did you first start paying attention to the
Probably-
Oscars?
Probably like in high school, or maybe slightly before. Like we would watch as a family,
Yeah.
because it was like something on, and we didn't have just anything that we could possibly watch available to us. But I mean, honestly, I don't really remember it being a huge thing in my family. Whereas I'm sure maybe it was with your family.
Yes.
Because you guys are much more movie watchers than I was with mine.
Oh yes.
Mhm.
We watched movies daily. Like
Mhm.
that was our form of entertainment. Like if we weren't out enjoying ourselves or going out to eat or seeing family or going to the park or something like that, we were home watching a movie together. Like that was always what it is. We watched a movie together.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big, camaraderie thing for our family. I think, looking back, because I did a little research today, I tried to think about when I really started paying attention to the Oscars, and that was probably in 1992
Okay.
when I was about 6.
Gotcha.
I remember being upset that Scent of a Woman did not win.
That's so funny.
And to be fair, though, like out of in 1992, you had Unforgiven, which won.
Wait, you watched that? Like, wait,
What?
you knew Scent of Woman, or you didn't know Scent of Woman?
I did know Scent of a
You
Woman.
did?
Yeah. Like,
in 1992.
yes, in 1992. Like, because I only saw 2 movies of the 5. Like, Unforgiven 1, then there was A Crying Game. Obviously, I didn't watch The Crying Game when I was 6. You had A Few Good Men, which I watched,
Okay.
Howard's End, and then Scent of a Woman. And so, like, because I only watched 2 of the 3, I was really hoping one of my 2 would win. Just
Gotcha.
not because I particularly like them.
Okay.
But
It's
just-
just like
yeah.
you knew the name, and so
Yeah,
I
exactly.
understand that.
Exactly.
I probably didn't really get into the Oscars until probably like 2002, 2001, like in film class in high school.
Oh, okay.
When I started like taking film classes, kind of learning about how they were made. And, we had like a TV station in our high school, and I would like do the announcement type stuff, like on air personality or whatever. And I remember like one of our whole classes was just like one day the teacher just stopped and was like, the Oscars happened, we have to talk about it.
That's awesome.
And he would do this a lot, or he'd be like, he would give us like a list, and he'd be like, these are the movies you need to watch before you die. And I like kept that list forever. I probably have it somewhere, honestly. So I think that impression of like a teacher being really proactive about like talking,
passionate.
yeah, exactly, and like being like, have you seen those movies? Like, can you talk about them? And it was a lot easier back then because there was only like 5 nominations.
Oh my gosh.
So-
when was that? 2009?
Yeah.
We
That's when
bumped
it
up
changed.
from 5 to 10, and there's 8
Right.
this year. I remember actually, like in 2008 when they announced that was going to happen. Everybody was just kind of like, well, it was like, okay, Academy, we want you to just nominate better movies or more deserving movies. And they're like, okay, we hear you, audience. We're going to nominate 5 more motion pictures.
Yeah, and I don't know how you feel about it. Well, I do know how you feel about it, but I don't think that more is better.
No, it's not. It devalues the nomination of Best Picture, because that's the thing, is that when there was 5, I mean, it's still an honor, of course. I mean, not like I know or have gotten one, but when there was 5, it really was a huge honor to be nominated for Best Picture.
Absolutely.
And so people would say, like, this was nominated for Best Picture. And now when you have 10, it's just kind of like, oh, well, they ran out of like, there's only so many good movies. I mean,
and I think they're like, especially like, okay, so like if you look at our lifetime, 86, 87, through today, towards the beginning of our lifetime, you understood why each and every single one of those films was nominated for the most part. Like, there's always like an oddball, right? But I feel like they're deserving films, even if they didn't win. And then sometimes there's ones that you're like, oh my gosh, how did that one win over this one? But they all made sense to me, or maybe it's just because they're so much a part of the zeitgeist that like everyone knows them, right?
Yeah.
So like I feel like the further down we get, like closer, 2008 and beyond, it's just going to be noise. Like I don't even know what all was nominated. Let's say 2 years ago. I mean, maybe that's because I'm bad at that because I don't remember. But I think that it's when there's too much, it's like it just becomes noise, and it's not like it's as special.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's pretty like you and I were talking about this before we started, that we started looking at the history, and 1998, and anyone who's in love with the Oscars knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's when Shakespeare in Love won and the world lost its mind, because
I remember that.
In like for the 71st Oscars, you had for Best Picture, you had Shakespeare in Love, Elizabeth, Life is Beautiful, Saving Private Ryan, and The Thin Red Line.
Yeah.
All movies that are infinitely better than Shakespeare in Love.
Yeah. And Shakespeare in Love won.
And Shakespeare in Love won. So people are just like, what like is it a problem when you have that many good movies? Like when you have not just good movies but great movies.
Right.
It splits the vote.
Seriously.
Yeah.
It kind of makes you wonder, because I mean, for that one to win in that pool of movies is crazy.
It really is.
It's such an odd choice. And there's other years where you're like, oh, the movies weren't that great that year. But whenever for example, going down the list, like you just said, Shakespeare in Love. Okay, the following year, American Beauty, then Gladiator, A Beautiful Mind, Chicago, stuff like. So I feel like even before that, though, when you had like Schindler's List winning and Forrest Gump, Braveheart. Those are all such epics. I guess it kind of goes down to like what makes an Oscar winner, right? It's the combo of everything, right? So it's the acting, directing,
right? Everything put together.
Everything put together. Like, this is the best film. And I think growing up, what I thought of, because of the winners that I had seen in my childhood, it was the Bravehearts and the Forrest Gumps and the Schindler's List that would win, right? And so that's like, I think it's like the epics, right, that you think of. And I think I still have that a little bit where I'm like, well, that's not epic enough to win.
I like when you think about like old Hollywood.
Yeah.
And you think about the epic would win. Like when Hollywood in the golden age would make an epic, people are like, oh, automatic Oscar win.
Yeah.
Like 10 Commandments, Cleopatra.
They tried the hardest.
Yeah.
So they win, hands down. Like, that's what is in my head, right? I think just growing up that way that we did, whereas, in modern Oscar time, it's not about the biggest sets, right? Like,
Mhm.
you know, I'm thinking about the days of like biblical epics even. It's not that, or like how many extras you have as, you know, Roman soldiers. It's not about that. It's
Because then
about
I Am Legend would have won.
right, something like that. So it's more about story, and you know, I would say more about story and acting. A lot
It's
of
story,
it,
like if you,
right?
yeah,
Wouldn't you say that that's where kind of where we're at right now?
like if you have a Best Actor nomination, it's probably a good chance that you'll win Best Picture in some respect. I feel like a lot of that can go hand in hand. Like there's there's so many times when you look back at that might have been a gross overstatement what I just said, but like when you look back at previous years and you think about the ones that kind of just sweep through of like who gets the most nominations and who how of your movie, like how many did you get? The Best Actor? Did you get the Best Supporting Actress? Did you get makeup? Did you get cinematography? Did
Right.
you get editing and everything like that?
Right.
And I can't remember the last time there was like, I remember Titanic, when Titanic came out, like that was getting everything. That was getting every single award.
But everyone understood why.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's an epic.
Yes,
right?
it's an epic. I don't think the acting deserves the nominations.
Looking back now, I don't think so either. But as a kid, I thought so, you know.
So I want to talk about 2000.
Okay.
2000 was the year I stopped watching the Oscars.
Why?
So you'd think this kind of sounds like
That's basically when I got started.
I know, it makes me sound like a petulant child with what I'm about to say, but so that's the year that Gladiator won.
Mm-hmm. Were you upset with that? Because I highly doubt that.
No, I was just like, yeah, of course Gladiator's going to win. Everybody knew that Gladiator was going to win. Epic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it had all the acting awards, the cinematography
Right.
awards, and everything like that.
Right.
And so I was just like, when I was obsessed with Gladiator, I was like, this is the picture. Like this is the picture of the millennium. You know, like this
Yeah.
is like this is beautiful. This is amazing. And I wanted it to win everything. I was like, there's no reason for it not to win everything. And it won Best Picture. Russell Crowe won for Best Actor. You'd think that would be enough for me. But the fact that I think what it was two awards where I wanted Joaquin Phoenix to win for Best Supporting Actor because I thought I thought he gave the best performance of his career in Gladiator. Still, to this day, I think he's a great actor, but I feel like that just him playing Commodus was amazing. And he didn't win. It went to, I think I remember the reason why. It was the scene that they showed, you know how they always give a little scenelet and everything like that. And it was his moment right before he stabs Maximus, and he's like, you know, like the general who became a slave, the slave who became a gladiator.
Right.
You know, like that scene where it's just like, oh my gosh, it just gives me chills thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they show Benicio del Toro's scene from Traffic. You can barely understand him. He's mumbling the entire time. He has like 2 words that he says in the scene. And then he gets the Oscar. And I'm like, what is this bull crap? And then when that was the year that Julia Roberts won for Aaron Brockovich. I hated Aaron Brockovich. And they show a scene, again, with the little scene they show Julia Roberts, in the scene that they chose was her joking about giving sexual favors. And then they show Ellen Burstyn from Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah. And
she's just acting her heart out. She's talking about how, you know, like, I'm going to be on TV. It gives me a reason to get out of bed in the morning. And she's crying. And I'm just like, oh, it's totally going to go to her. And then they give it to Julia Roberts. And I'm like, I'm never watching the Oscars again.
No, I get that. I totally understand that. Because, you know, and sometimes you shake your head and you're just like, what is the requirements here?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it sometimes makes you wonder because, yeah, that's crazy. I mean, in our opinion.
In my opinion.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
and like, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of best actors and actresses or anything
we're not
going to
go there. But, you know, I think that's very easily can happen when, like, your favorite movie doesn't win Best Picture. Absolutely. And you're just like, well, why would I watch the Oscars? So I feel like now in our, like with us as a nerd nuptial, we don't care too much about the Oscars other than
No.
we want to see okay, let me add though that we have really tried in recent years, especially this year, to watch as many Oscar noms as we possibly can so that
Yes.
we can have an opinion. So we don't really care who they give the Oscar to, but we want to be informed. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me. I don't know if
Okay.
it makes sense to the audience because I agree with you. Yeah. Yeah, I want to be informed. I want to be a part of the conversation. We're huge film nerds.
Yeah.
We love film. And so the Oscars are synonymous with film.
Absolutely.
And so I want to be informed like this year. You know, like if you know, let's go ahead and talk about this year's
Sure.
nominees. So this year in 2018, in the year of our Lord, we have Black Panther, we'll get back to that. Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Favorite, Green Book, Roma, A Star is Born, and Vice.
Okay.
Now, of those 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, 8. There's only 2 that we haven't seen.
We haven't seen Green Book and we haven't seen Vice.
Vice, I'm really sad that we missed, and I
Yeah.
was really hoping that would come out on rental
Yeah.
before the
and it doesn't
ceremony.
look like it's going to.
I don't think it's going to happen. And Green Book, I just had no interest in seeing. I just really didn't have no. That feels like a 90s movie of accessible anti-racism. Like it feels like something that a lot of like middle-aged white people would watch to feel good about themselves. It was really strange to see that nominated in 2018.
Of the nominees, which ones do you think deserve to be nominated? So if we were to go back in time and be like, okay, like let's go to 5.
5. So like out of these 8, which one would we cut?
Okay, but we kind of have to cut the ones we haven't seen, right? Kind of, because we haven't seen them. So how do we can't judge them.
Well, I think that means we could only cut 1 then.
Okay.
I think
You got Green Book because we haven't seen it.
well, like okay,
Or what about the ones that you've seen? Would you cut one?
I would cut Black Panther.
Okay, why would you?
Hardcore.
It doesn't feel like an Oscar.
No. Black Panther is not a Best Picture nominee. It's not. I really enjoyed the movie. It's a great superhero film.
You're just not willing to live in a world where a superhero film could take Best Picture, or only The Dark Knight?
Yeah. If The Dark Knight could not be nominated for Best Picture or win, then no superhero film in the history of time can. And Black Panther is not better than The Dark Knight. It's a good film.
I loved it.
You loved it a whole lot more than I did.
loved it.
But would you say it was a Best Picture nomination?
It doesn't feel like a Best Picture nom to me.
So let's.
But it doesn't feel like it to me because of all the reasons why I just said, because of the history of what I feel like Oscars should be.
But okay, here's the thing: is that like I feel like Black Panther was a holdover from. Okay, do you remember a couple months ago when they were talking about the Academy was talking about how they were going to have a Best Popular Movie category?
Yes.
And how ridiculous that was.
Yes.
And everyone said you were
Popularity contest, essentially.
You were absolutely freaking stupid for doing that. So like,
Yeah.
it was a way for them to get these fanboys off their back.
Right.
And so that they could actually focus on what they deem Oscar worthy and not worry about like saying like, oh man, you didn't nominate Aquaman. This is bull crap. You're like, that way Aquaman could get an Oscar nomination and it wouldn't matter. And so when they got rid of that, they're like, well, what are we going to do with Black Panther? We don't want, like people to jump down our throat. So let's throw it in there now that we have 8 to 10. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, it does feel like it. And yet it will be interesting to see where it lands, like especially with everything, because we could live in a world where in 2018 Black Panther wins the Oscar.
Here's the thing though, like when you look at it and you look at the other nominations, how we were talking about that earlier,
Yes.
about how if you look at other nominations, it's usually a good indicator of who could win Best Picture. Black Panther, there is no Best Actor,
No.
Best Actress,
No, that's
Best
true.
Director, Best Screenplay. It's
That's
not
true.
there.
So if it wins, then it really is just a popularity.
It's for
Right?
yeah, because and here's the thing, Black Panther is an important movie.
Exactly, because that's what I was going to mention is like, the fact that it was what it did, I think is important. So we cannot discount that, right?
And
So-
that's the thing. And
yeah.
I'm not trying to discount that. It is probably one of the most culturally relevant movies of the year
Absolutely.
because of what it represents and what it did. But the thing with the Oscars is they give awards for movies that push the boundaries of art and science.
Mm-hmm.
And Black Panther didn't do that except in the categories that it is nominated for, like makeup and design and things like that. And
Well,
so I
then
know
can
that
you
a lot
really
of people disagree with
Can
me.
you okay? So you mention art and science a lot, like
Mhm.
when we talk about Oscars, just you and I. But can you really say that they've been upholding that for like the past, I don't know, like 10 years? Like,
Okay.
or even let's even go to like 5 or 6 here. You know, like do you really think Spotlight did that?
I think
Do you really? You know, I
I
mean,
think Spotlight had some fantastic acting in it. Yeah, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, you didn't know.
No, I didn't like.
I more
Spotlight.
like if you look at it from
Not enough for it. Didn't feel like to me that year. Okay, like let's backtrack just a little bit. Just
Okay.
to like Spotlight really over The Revenant. Like to me that was crazy. But it just this is so relative, right?
It is so-
it's
it's so
so
relative.
relative that it's just like, what are the categories? Like what are the things? Like, okay, we know what they are because they're nominated in other categories,
Mhm.
right? Like we have acting and directing, and we have costumes and makeup and everything, and sound editing and, you know, design. But it just feels like then we're not relying, like, do movies like, for example, Moonlight and Spotlight,
Yes.
and I don't know, you know, stuff like an Argo win
yeah.
in that. I don't know. It
I
just
thi-
to
I think-
me,
I think like with
this is my bias.
I think what with what Moonlight represented, with what Spotlight represented, with the material that it was addressing, and Birdman, you know, winning, I think just from what Inarritu, I know I pronounced that wrong, with what he did with the camera and how he blocked it and put it all together, Birdman was pushing the boundary of technology.
Yeah, I agree with that one,
And like that's why like when you
especially for that year.
like when Avatar got nominated for Best Picture, like Avatar is not an Oscar movie. Like it's not an Oscar type movie. Like, okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think that's a good one to
let's
bring up, actually.
Let's compare Avatar and Black Panther. Absolutely. Like Avatar was a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah,
Everyone was
it
talking
was.
about it. It had horrible acting. The script was trash, but it was an Oscar-worthy movie because it pushed the boundary of science and technology
It's
in
true.
filmmaking
It's so true.
and combined it with the art.
Right.
Now with Black Panther, that pushed the boundaries of cultural relevancy about putting African Americans and Africans and Afro-Europeans and everything like that in the forefront in a almost a completely black cast,
Mhm.
which very rarely happened before in such a large movie.
Right.
And it was great. It was fun. But it was
And broke records
It
with how
broke
much it made.
records.
Yeah.
But in the terms of pushing arts and sciences, no. Like if you look at the science and tech of that, the cinematography is not great. The CGI is horrible. And it was just really slapdash together. Now the directing is good and the acting is good, but it didn't really give you the acting moments that you normally see nominated. And I think that's the key difference. Now, if Avatar was like, say Sam Worthington was nominated for Best Actor in Avatar, then yeah, I'd say like, okay, the Oscars are dead. Like this is gone. No, I'm not comparing Sam Worthington's performance to
No.
the lead in
what
Black
you're
Panther.
trying to say is that you basically, okay, so like I understand what you're saying, is that overall versus individuals and
Yes.
and the phenomenon versus what it actually is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, Avatar was a phenomenon. Like everyone came out of there being like, "Oh my gosh, I just like witnessed something completely new." Right?
We because of Avatar, like it was an industry term as well as a film lover's term that we're now living in a post Avatar world because of the CGI
Right.
that it achieved.
Which is huge.
That's huge.
Whereas, I mean, I'm hoping that we live in a world where we're post Black Panther world where we have more diversity and
You're making the case more and more.
I know, and
inadvertently.
No, not necessarily. I think I'm mixed about this because I loved Black Panther. I think it doesn't feel like an Oscar movie to me because of what I think of as Oscar, like the Bravehearts, the Forrest Gumps, and also I think just the fact that it's like in a franchise to me really plays into my head.
Yes.
So if I took that away, then, the idea of this film having so much diversity, yeah. Now, do I think it was the best story? And compared to the other nominees, was it the best acting? No. So let's talk about best acting. So I've got to let me give Black Panther that if it does win, I have to say, okay, well, at least we're living in a world where that kind of cast can exist and win.
And okay, so like how I would say is just like the cultural impact needs to be taken into account.
Yes.
I think for the reasons that you stated, if Black Panther wasn't a Marvel film and wasn't a franchise film and just like existed on its own,
right,
I would probably be more apt to accept the
because
Best
that's
Picture
what I
nomination.
think is maybe holding me back from saying like, oh, Black Panther. But okay, of the nominees, if you were just going on like acting alone, which one would you say?
The Favorite.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That you would say was your favorite? Like,
acting alone.
Acting alone.
Just
okay.
the performances. I feel like The Favorite would win hands down.
Okay. Yeah. Like, I guess we're kind of getting into like best actress versus like story versus like we probably.
Well, you asked me about acting.
I know, you're right. I totally did. I mean, I think. Well, let's get into some of our like. I really kind of hope that a lot of the ladies from The Favorite take a lot of them because I really liked the cast.
And it sucks though because Rachel Weisz and
know.
Emma Stone are both
and they
in the same
both like
category.
did such a great job. So it's gonna be rough if what if neither one of them get it?
No, I don't want to live in that world.
But I really did like the lead actor in Bohemian Rhapsody, Rami
Malek.
Yeah, I thought he did a fantastic job. I mean, I really do think that he deserves Best Actor.
I'm actually okay. So we just watched Bohemian Rhapsody.
We did,
and
The Favorite,
and it's really interesting because how do I phrase it? When Bohemian Rhapsody came out, there was a lot of behind the scenes drama that we don't need to talk about right now. And, like Bryan Singer being fired and then the quality of Bryan Singer's character, which is none. But a lot, like critics were saying, like a lot of critics liked it and then a lot of critics hated it. And then like it made a splash and it was getting all these award nominations, but then it got like a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. And then I'm seeing like influential critics give it like 0.5 star and 1 star. And I'm like, how is it possible that it's getting 0.5 star and 1 stars from people and getting all these awards? What's the deal?
Yeah,
what could possibly be going on? And then we watch it and I'm like, oh, that wasn't very good. But Rami Malek, I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Yeah.
His performance was phenomenal.
Well, I think that that's what made it for me. Like, I think it's a very, like, if you can have a like a band biopic movie, this is very like by the numbers, right, as far as story is concerned. And yet at the same time, like his performance for me tipped it over to be something more special for sure. And so that's why I hope that he wins. I don't think the movie should win, but I hope that he wins.
You know what? I might want to, after talking with you, I cannot believe I'm going to admit this.
Ooh.
After talking with you about Black Panther and after seeing Bohemian Rhapsody, it is hard for me to like I like a knee jerk right now is to say like no, Bohemian Rhapsody should be at the top of the list to get cut because there was so much wrong with it.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
With Black Panther, the main thing that was wrong with it from an Oscar, quote unquote Oscars perspective, was that it's a franchise film and a superhero film. But from a technical standpoint, the CGI was garbage.
But in Bohemian Rhapsody, you have the editing is atrocious, which was nominated, which is beyond me. And you had the story structure was bad, the script was bad, the acting besides Malik was bad. Like, Malik carried this movie on his back, so he should absolutely be nominated. And that's the only reason why I think Bohemian Rhapsody got nominated for Best Picture is because of him.
Maybe everyone just saw like how, I mean, his performance is something special.
Yes.
And so I feel like maybe his performance outshone all those other elements.
Maybe.
To a lot of people.
So part
or
of me,
they're just really into the soundtrack, which we are right now, of the best of Queen.
And I think that like maybe like because you gave so many great points about being relevant and maybe not pushing the boundaries of art and science, but definitely pushing cultural boundaries, gives it a huge leg up over Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah. Now, that being said, I think personally the best story, if we're going on story, I think Roma was the best story.
Yeah.
Like, the one that made me feel the most out of all of them was Roma. And if you've listened to our podcast recently, like, you know, a few episodes back, I have a lot of issues with Roma personally because of what the content that it deals with. Like, just issues meaning, like, it's very sensitive. Mm-hmm. But I have to say that, like, back a few weeks ago, I said, or maybe months ago, I said, this is definitely the best picture of 2018. I still stand by that.
You do?
I do.
I think it's down to The Favorite and Roma. I think those have to be the top winners. I really do think, because Roma is just
so utterly beautiful.
It is.
But Favorite
and real. Like, I think that's the thing that for me, it feels timeless and real.
But Favorite has the performances.
Oh my gosh, I loved the performances in The Favorite.
But I don't like the cinematography or the direction of The Favorite.
No.
But with Roma, you have a beautiful screenplay and beautiful cinematography, beautiful directing.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
And beautiful performances.
Yeah.
But you don't have, like...
It's not as flashy.
It's not... Yeah, exactly.
It's not as flashy.
The performances aren't as flashy as Coleman and Weiss and Stone.
Right. They're unknowns versus
she was nominated though.
Yes, and so was the supporting.
Oh, was she?
Yeah,
I missed that.
The mom. Yeah, she was also nominated. So that was. I'm glad that at least they were.
But you're right. It's not as flashy.
It's not as flashy. So I mean, I wonder even how many people have seen Roma compared to, like, if you were to say Bohemian Rhapsody and Black Panther, probably more people have seen those two.
With A Star Is Born, like,
it was underwhelming to me. Like,
yeah,
it was just an excuse to see Lady Gaga, in my opinion, act, and I don't think that she acted better than these other people.
I genuinely believe that the only reason why Lady Gaga got the nomination is because everyone was so surprised that she could act.
Well, that's what I think too. It's like, oh, she can act? Let's give her an Oscar nom.
And exactly. And that's the thing. Is that you're just like, did she give an Oscar-worthy performance? No. But did she surprise? Like, did I walk out of the theater like, damn, man, Lady Gaga can act. Let's see if she can get better
right.
for the next one.
Right. I mean, I enjoyed the movie. It's nothing. This story has been done several times before.
Yes.
So I just, to me, it doesn't even feel like one that should be nominated.
Damn. Okay. So we're taking out.
We're taking them out.
We're taking out Bohemian Rhapsody. We're taking out A Star Is Born. So that leaves Black Klansman, The Favorite, Roma, and Black Panther. And then I guess probably Vice, because just from again, I can't judge them.
We can't judge it because we haven't
just from
seen
what
it.
I've heard from people who I respect. Vice is the far superior movie to Green Book.
Okay, so we'll go based on others' opinions.
I can't believe that at the beginning of this before we started recording, I knew we were going to have this conversation. I was just like, easily Black Panther off the list. But now, as we were talking, I actually rated Black Panther for what it was, way higher than Bohemian Rhapsody and higher than A Star Is Born.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I thought it was like apples and oranges. Like when Star Is Born was nominated, I was just like, oh yeah, Oscars love that crap. Like, of course that one's going to be nominated. Like it's, like you're dealing with alcohol addiction and suicide and, there's award shows and performances in it. Yeah, the Oscars love that stuff. Of course it's going to be nominated, but.
Right. I just don't think. And I liked Black Klansman a lot. I don't think it's very, in my opinion, I didn't find it particularly memorable.
I did.
You did?
I did.
I think it might be like a guy thing a little bit more too, because I've heard that from several. I feel like guys might like it more than, I don't know. Maybe, I mean, it's not like it's a guy movie versus a girl movie. Like there's,
yeah, no,
I
think I get what you're saying.
I think maybe just inside that mind of, I don't know. I'm just not, I guess I was just not huge. There was a lot of moments where I was just like, this is an odd direction we're going. And
there's not a lot of, I mean, there's one big female part in it, but she's not really in it that much. And so it is just a bunch of guys talking about other guys and
race
and well, I mean, like I'm saying it's just like it's about, like, you have a precinct that is just filled with men, and you have the Klan that's exclusively men.
True.
And so I think there could be something there about it. But like out of Spike Lee's films, I'm not a Spike Lee fan, but I love 25th Hour, but I liked Black Klansman, and I thought it was the type of message, and it was put together very well. And I thought Adam Driver gave a great performance, and I thought it was edited well, and I feel like the message was stronger than the movie, which is often the case with Spike Lee's films.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Yeah.
And again, like the Oscars love that stuff.
Do you think it deserves to be a part of them?
Of 2018, I think so.
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
All right. I waver on it just because I didn't find it as memorable than some. But
like if this
but
was
maybe just I don't feel Spike Lee very much.
If
like,
this was last year or 2 years ago, probably not.
Okay.
But this year, 2018, I'd say
you'll say yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Is there anything else okay? Is there any like other nominations that you really have a dog in the fight for? Like, do you
this year? No.
Okay.
Like with cinematography, last year, that was literally the only Oscar I cared about last year was cinematography
for Blade Runner.
I needed Roger Deakins
Yeah.
to win for Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah.
Nothing else mattered.
Right.
I did not care about a single award.
Yeah.
Other than that.
Yeah. Yeah. And
he won.
And he won. So thankfully justice was served. But again, like, I mean, Blade Runner wasn't even nominated, was it?
No.
I know, but like that kind of movie to me should be, because we loved it so much. But
oh yeah,
apparently no one else did.
Should it have been nominated over The Post and Get Out?
Yes.
And Darkest Hour? Absolutely. Oh hell, it should have been nominated over Shape of Water. And Shape of Water won. Why on earth I hate that we live in a world where Shape of Water was nominated, let alone won. Good lord. I don't like Guillermo del Toro.
You really didn't like that. I thought I liked it. Like I liked it fine. Like not compared to
No,
I mean,
you thought it was okay.
You had hatred from the moment we started that movie. You immediately turned it off just because you didn't like Guillermo del Toro.
No, I didn't like it because it was a bad movie.
Okay. Yeah, but I think for me, I don't necessarily care who wins Best Picture. I guess who would you be okay with winning Best Picture?
Roma and The Favorite.
But I would not be surprised if Black Panther doesn't win. That's my feeling.
No, I mean, okay, I
don't think that if Bohemian Rhapsody wins, I'm going to be a little frustrated.
Yeah,
because that's not the best movie.
No, that establishes a very dangerous precedent
like a Shakespeare in Love precedent.
Yeah, where Bohemian Rhapsody has so much wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
So much wrong with it that it should not win. But then again, like I never thought like in a million years Black Panther would actually get the nomination.
True.
So what do I know? I'm not a member of the Academy. No, I think it'll be The Favorite or Roma, but I think Roma will win.
I would be more than happy if that happened. I would be happy if that happened.
I can't comment on Vice.
Okay.
But
well, because we haven't seen it.
Because we haven't seen it.
Right.
But A Star Is Born is not going to win. I don't think Bohemian Rhapsody is going to win. I don't think Black Klansman's going to win. I just don't think it has the buzz that a lot of other pictures do. And
go ahead. Sorry.
Green Book has way too much drama behind it. And but then again, so does Bohemian Rhapsody. I honestly, my bet is on The Favorite or Roma. But like I said, I think Roma will win because Roma is the complete package.
I feel like I hope if Roma doesn't win, I hope that Alfonso Cuarón is able to
get Best Director. Yeah,
and I really feel like that's deserved for sure.
We watched Gravity a couple days ago. Was it yesterday? And I was just like, I want to do a Alfonso Cuarón. Rewatch.
I think that would be fun.
Hardcore do that
Definitely.
right now.
What about for Best Actor, Best Actress?
Well, I thought we were going to go down this rabbit hole.
I'm talking about like for this year. We can talk about those.
Well, this year, I just don't.
You don't really care?
I don't. I think like after seeing Bohemian Rhapsody, I was just like, yeah, let Malik win.
Yeah, me too.
Let Malik win because you have Cooper from A Star Is Born, who, good Lord, you could barely understand a word that he was saying. I just want to see you walk away again. Oh my god! And then
that was really good, babe.
And like the other, like thank you. And then we haven't seen Vice, even though Christian Bale is amazing. So if he does win, I'm gonna be like, sure, Christian Bale's awesome. So
I won't because I haven't seen the movie,
but
so I feel frustrated about that.
Best Actress, it's gotta. I think it goes back to Roma and The Favorite.
Me too.
If I think Coleman will win, but if she doesn't win, I want Aparicio to win.
Yeah, me too.
From Roma.
Me too. Yeah.
And with Best Supporting Actor, I was so impressed with Adam Driver and Black Klansman. I actually, I think that's probably who I would like to win.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of heat behind Richard E. Grant for Can You Ever Forgive Me?
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
But,
and then I think for us, the one that's going to be the most interesting to watch will be supporting, because we really enjoyed the performances in The Favorite of Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz. So, I mean, do you have like a favorite of those two?
I think
they both were so fantastic.
Emma Stone was fantastic. Weisz's favorite was fantastic, but I have such a crush on Rachel Weisz.
Weisz? Okay, you take Weisz, I'll take Stone.
Okay, all right, we'll do that. But then again, Amy Adams is nominated too.
Well, I know, and that's another crush of yours.
I have so many emotions.
Many feelings.
I have so many feelings going in so many different directions. Because I like Emma Stone too.
But you cannot judge that because you have not seen Amy Adams.
You're right, I can't. But Amy Adams. But I know Amy Adams, like,
is a treasure.
And you remember how the memes going around about Leonardo DiCaprio, like, just give him the Oscar already. He's been nominated so many times.
Yeah.
Amy Adams is nominated more times than Leonardo DiCaprio, and in a shorter period of time.
And no one's mentioned that?
No. Well, I mean, a few people have, but not to the fervor that DiCaprio was.
Okay.
Amy Adams deserves the Oscar, but I can't talk about it from Vice because I believe her career deserves the Oscar.
Okay.
Best animated feature, you don't even need to talk about it. It's going to be Spider-Verse.
Oh, it better be Spider-Verse.
It better be Spider-Verse.
Because I did not like Incredibles 2.
And Isle of Dogs was good.
Yes, but Spider-Verse.
Sorry. And then you have Best Director. And Spike Lee for Black Klansman, Adam McKay for Vice, Polakowski for Cold War, Cuarón for Roma, and Lanthimos for The Favorite. I do not think Lanthimos. Oh my gosh, I did not like the direction of The Favorite.
Cuarón was my favorite for sure.
Cuarón, he's got to take the gold. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to.
Yeah. That's all that really care about in your nuptial. Let's be honest.
Well, with
Well, you care more about the technical aspects because
I
of
do.
your career.
yes, I do.
For sure.
For original screenplay, I really hope it's Paul Schrader for First Reformed, because if Ethan Hawke is not going to be nominated,
Yeah.
which is BS.
That was a really great performance. If you want to see a great performance that wasn't nominated, in First Reformed, Ethan Hawke did an amazing job.
Like, he should have been there 1,000 times more than Bradley Cooper.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my gosh,
Hands down.
hands down. And
But that was a fantastic script.
that was the best thing about the movie.
Yeah. Seriously.
I want to get that script printed out
Yeah.
and
It-
bound. You could do that as a gift for me.
Okay, I'll
Get a
I'll
leather
work-
bound
I'll work on
version
that.
of
First Reformed.
First Reformed. I think then you have adapted screenplay, which whatever. I think, but then in cinematography, I did. Here's the thing, like, again, it's got to be Roma,
Yeah.
because
Oh, yeah.
when you look at Robbie
It's
Ryan
beautiful.
for The Favorite, I did not like
No.
the cinematography. That was my least
choices
favorite
were
thing.
very odd.
And Matthew Libatique, I'm pronouncing that wrong probably, A Star Is Born, there was a lot of things wrong geographically and spatially in A Star Is Born that kind of
Mhm.
pissed me off. And that's all that I can really comment on. And
What about editing?
editing,
I feel like that's one of the ones that you care about.
that I as long as John Ottoman doesn't win for Bohemian Rhapsody,
Okay.
I'm fine.
You're fine.
I'm fine. I mean, I'm sure he's a really nice guy. But I just don't understand how
Yeah.
he got nominated.
Well, I
And-
think
and
there's
that's-
also maybe some behind the scenes of Bohemian Rhapsody's like odd past that like might be involved with some of the pacing of that film too.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
That's the thing, is that
the
there's so many-
changeover of director and everything like that. So you have to give that.
there's so many times, like, you look at a screenplay and like somebody's name is on it, but none of their words actually made it through all the revisions.
Oh, yeah.
Or if you look at editing, sometimes it's the director just standing behind the editor saying, do this, cut here, cut here, cut here, and not trusting them.
Right.
And so it's hard to judge. But the fact that he was nominated is just beyond me. And if you're listening, man,
He's not. It's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah. But those are probably the biggest ones for us. Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, we got some reviews.
Heck yes, we did.
Yeah. So thank you so much for writing reviews for
Thank
us.
you guys so much.
You're
And
awesome.
We want to mention you on the show, because you guys, we got 3 new
That
reviews.
was so cool.
All 5 stars.
Yeah.
And we just want to thank you guys so much, because here we go. So this is from Thad Hyatt, or Hyatt. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. We follow each other on Twitter. He's a great guy. Good commentary and great chemistry. I've been listening to Nerd Nuptial for about a year and I love it. Tristan and the girl have great chemistry, which makes listening to them discuss the things they love a joy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thad. And then we have one from the UK from a woman named Sarah Shelley. She calls it Original. Always a good mix of nerdy topics with a personal touch. Short and sweet. Good stuff.
Thanks.
That was my commentary right there. Saying short and sweet.
Thanks.
I was like, sometimes we're not short and sweet sometimes.
No, not really.
And then we have another one called Great Podcast by Chaz Biz. I'm hoping that's a screen name and not the man's actual name. Chaz Biz. With 2 Z's
What
on
if
each
it
side.
is?
What if it is? I'll feel like a horrible
Come on,
person.
Tristan.
He says, this podcast is one of my favorites to listen to. I love your detailed reviews and hearing about your family. My wife and I are going through the same struggles with IVF, and it's nice to hear someone talk about it. Thanks for the hard work.
Oh,
Thank you so much, Chaz Biz.
thank you, and we'll keep you in our prayers because
Absolutely.
that is not an easy time.
That's not an easy time. That's the roughest thing
Yeah.
that we've ever been through in our entire lives.
Yeah.
No, not an exaggeration.
No.
Toughest
it's
thing we've ever
really
been
tough.
through. And we're stronger for it.
Definitely.
And we have nothing but sympathy for people who are going through that right now.
Definitely.
Or have gone through that. So if you guys, because we know some listeners are going through that.
Yeah.
We've gotten that kind of email multiple times from
We
people.
have. And we're happy that like you're able to open up to us about that because
Yes.
that's one of the things about Nerd Nuptial that we hope to share is that that was a really hard time for us, and we're hoping that you can find some strength in our story that it has a happy ending, which is really awesome.
And that's why we talk about it, and that's why this is Nerd Nuptial, not just nerdy topics. It's our nerd life together. It's our nerd marriage together.
Yeah.
And that's not always everybody's cup of tea, but for the people like who are going through IVF, I'm glad that it is.
Yeah.
Now, before we close, there's one thing that I want to talk about that is a comment on the Oscars,
Okay.
and it's a quote from Steven Soderbergh,
Okay.
who is a favorite of mine.
Yes.
He was once asked, like, what would you do if you could produce the Oscars? And he kind of like fluffed it off and said, the show itself is clunky and weird sometimes, but the work that the Academy does in terms of archiving alone, I don't care what kind of show they've got to put on to make the money to pay for that stuff. The Academy Library is one of the most amazing resources in the United States. As a filmmaker, understanding what they're doing for cinema culture, I'm very sympathetic to their problem. And part of me doesn't get that worked up about it because I'm like, look, they've got to put on this show. It pays for all this great stuff. All my stuff, all the prints, negatives, it's all there for nothing. I used to have that expletive in a climate-controlled vault in Hollywood. It wasn't cheap.
Wow. That's crazy.
And that's really fascinating to think of it that way.
Yeah.
That's the entire reason they put on the show.
This is like their fundraiser.
This is their fundraiser for their archiving.
Right.
And when he said that, I was just like, you know what? Yeah, he's right. I feel that way because this stuff needs to be preserved.
Oh my gosh, seriously.
These negatives, these prints, the art that is filmmaking needs to be preserved.
Essentially a museum of film.
Absolutely. And we didn't even talk about how the Academy wasn't going to show cinematography and editing and makeup during the ceremonies, but
they changed their minds.
They changed their minds because of the backlash.
Because that would be such a screw you if they did not do that.
Because it's not like cinematography or editing really shapes the picture at all.
Gosh.
You don't even need those.
That's so frustrating that they would even think to cut those things.
Oh my gosh. It's just absurd.
Yeah.
And but when Soderbergh said that, I was just kind of like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, and I think that does put it in perspective for sure as well. Well, next week we will talk about our
reactions to the show, to the ceremony and everything like
excitement,
that. Excitement, winners and losers, and what we thought, and how on earth Black Panther could win.
We will see.
We will see.
I love you.
I know.
Scully,
Yes?
marry me.
I love you and I like you.
I love you and I like you.
I love that woman. I love her more than sharks love blood.
I love you.
I don't.